All right, everyone, we should be live. However, as usual, we've got to make sure of that fact. YouTube can have some problems, just the way that it works, or doesn't. No spoon to clank at the moment. Just a second, let me pause myself on the other side. All right, everyone, it's time for this Sunday's Super Chat Q&A. You can send Super Chats, reacting to my work, asking questions, making comments, whatever. But first, I wanted to get into a little bit about what's happening in Afghanistan. As of right now, the U.S. actively evacuating the Kabul embassy, which is a symbol that we expect Kabul probably to be attacked fairly shortly, if not to fall outright. And Biden's sending more troops into Afghanistan. Yeah, in addition to the 1,000 that were already there, 1,000 others have been diverted from initially Kuwait. They were going to be on standby. Guess the situation's bad enough that he just said, fuck it. So basically, we have several thousand more troops in Afghanistan at the moment in the Kabul area. So it sounds like war to me. You've got heavily armed men stationed around the metropolitan area of their capital to try to buff up their forces. How many Americans potentially die in an engagement with the Taliban as a result of Joe Biden's stupid decision to egotistically move back the withdrawal date just so that Trump couldn't take credit for a successful ending? Basically, I think Biden hopes that Afghanistan falls or at least becomes largely non-functioning because then he'll blame it on Trump. Well, Orange Man never should have negotiated with the Taliban. If we had just stayed in a little bit longer, then the last 20 years of failure would magically disappear. It's horseshit. Yeah, there's a few, yeah, exactly, the Admiral there. I know it's not a super chat, but I'll react to that anyway. Yeah, there's a few hours, basically, probably before Afghanistan falls. That's the long and short of it. Anyway, the Taliban, yes, the Taliban eventually would have conducted attacks anyway, because that's what they do. But if the Afghan government and Taliban have reached a withdrawal agreement and was stuck to, at least the United States comes out clean. It's not our fault if anything goes wrong, because we would no longer have a presence in the country. Now, Biden is planning to potentially bribe the Taliban to try to get him to leave Kabul alone. Phoenix Fire 77. Styx, Kabul just fell to the Taliban. Your comments? I'm not sure that it has fallen yet to the Taliban. I am aware that it is embattled at the time. I'll check that, though. It could be that there's a new update. Be interesting if it just fell. Taliban fighters enter Kabul, say they don't plan to take it by force. That means that Biden's busy bribing them. Instead of just doing what we had done before, which is reach an agreement with the government, the Taliban signed on, we leave, Biden decided to screw the pooch. They're saying it just fell. I think that they're referring to the fact that the Taliban has entered Kabul. It hasn't fallen unless the capital there, unless a bunch of people go into the capital to take selfies and to steal a podium, then you'll know that there's an actual insurrection. I learned that from Nancy Pelosi. Roughneck MP 173, I'm just here to clank. Yeah, I don't need a spoon at the moment because I've just got water. I already had my caffeine, double dose of it. I'm feeling good, trust me. Caffeine's the best drug. Just ask your heart if you drink 3 Red Bulls in a row. You'll notice it more than you will most weed. Yeah, so Kabul is either basically under partial Taliban control or has already fallen. That was a record speed. Okay, if Trump were president, this wouldn't be happening. Let's put it that way. Trump either would have hardballed them and wiped out parts of the Taliban and forced them back into the mountains, or he would have said, shrugged his shoulders and left on the fucking withdrawal date. Biden just couldn't help himself. He had to be the one to, basically, I don't even think he wants credit for ending the Afghan war. I don't think that's Biden's idea. I think him and his cronies just wanted Trump not to be the one able to take responsibility for a successful withdrawal, because it would have been fodder in 2024. It would have been a selling point for his next campaign. Jay Mill, fiery but peaceful takeover by the Taliban. Yeah, it's funny. The Biden administration doesn't want you to be able to have a gun, able to use a magazine that holds more than 10 bullets, but they left behind Humvees, APCs, fucking fighting vehicles of every kind, drones that cost millions of dollars a piece, munitions, machine guns, sniper rifles, assault rifle, everything under the sun was left behind. Body armor. Real body armor, like stage 4 shit, rifle armor and everything with ceramic plates. All that was left behind. Crates and crates and crates of goodies. I think I'd trust the American people more than the Taliban with such toys, but Biden doesn't see it that way. It really shows you where his fucking priorities are. Fucking miserable pissant. Adam M., I watch you every morning after work. I appreciate your work, man. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, so I guess Biden's really done a good thing for the Taliban. He's handed them a country and a bunch of military weaponry that American citizens he doesn't want to have even a pea shooter. He thinks that you should have to defend your home with a double-barreled shotgun like Grandma used to use. He doesn't believe in modern weaponry unless it's in the hands of extremists, real ones, you know, the kind that actually behead people for disagreeing. Tony Soprano, I've never heard or seen of such an unmitigated disaster in the past decade. Holy crap, this should come with impeachment, which it won't. F 2021. Yeah, this is the worst since Vietnam fell, certainly. Arguably worse. That took months. The fall of Saigon, and so yeah, it took a little bit of time for that to happen. This is over a larger land area where the Taliban really started off, you know, not even that many months ago, holding a relatively small proportion of the country, but nobody's fighting back. Isn't this a symbol of U.S. failure? Fred Friedman Sowell, I enjoy your show. A guy at a wedding I went to in Iowa in 2019 listens to you as well. Any recommendations for fighting CRT in corporate America? Become less materialistic. Buy local, buy small business. Boycott Chinese goods. Hit them where it hurts. Corporations exist to make a profit. Lancer 737, I feel sad for the Afghan people and angry with our news because they have said MAGA is worse than the Taliban. Nothing good will come of this. Yeah, exactly. They want to disarm you and everyone else in the Western world, you know, people that are actually by and large peace-loving and reasonable and not extreme. But he wants to do this. And meanwhile, Shipman, that idiot that he wants to head the ATF, was part of Fast and Furious. You remember when they were giving machine guns to cartels? Obama used to do this horse shit too. These people are morons. They know full well what they're doing, though. It's not dumbness, it's malevolence. They want to keep Afghanistan unstable. Wolf Better, not a financial advice, but why are you feeling bullish towards Cardano? Because I feel bullish too. $88.10 by EOY. Yeah, possibly. I feel bullish because I saw it being talked about a lot. There's usually a lot of chatter if you know where to look on the internet, certain Discord servers, which I don't use, 4chan, which I do use. Places like that, you can hear the chatter before a coin tends to jump. Again, disclaimer, not financial advice. It's just what I do. Cardano, I saw talked up a lot, and so I invested a considerable amount, and I've already made a considerable return. I'm very glad that I decided to buy the dip. I bought it not quite at the very bottom, but a little bit before that. But by and large, yeah, I've made a return. Doge really rose too. Somebody donated hundreds of it to me when it was basically worthless. Mickelvo, let's be clear about this. Afghanistan is now under Taliban rule. What comes next? China is courting the Taliban. What do they hope to gain there? It'd be funny if China failed. I mean, Biden's trying to bribe them. It's not like the U.S. government's really not amenable to working with miserable morons out in the steppe butchering one another. If you think that the U.S. politicians give a shit about things like women's rights and gay rights, just look at the fact that they deal with the Taliban. Trump brokered an agreement with them just to try to preserve the relic that is the Afghan government, but otherwise wasn't arming them, wasn't leaving behind APCs and machine guns for them like Biden did. He pushes the withdrawal back by several months, still doesn't get all of the military equipment out of the country, like it was impossible to do that, or at the very least move it into Kabul and have the Afghan government use it. Like that was fucking impossible. And why did the Afghan government, by the way, not go into those bases right away when we abandoned them? Why didn't they have the logistic capability to requisition these supplies? It's horseshit. They're expecting people to be morons, and Biden refuses to take responsibility. He was asked yesterday on CNN. CNN, of all places, ridiculing him for his decision-making there, his lack of leadership. CNN ridiculing him. When the Clinton News Network doesn't have your back and you're Joe Biden, don't you think that the jig is up? David G. What country is next? Iraq? Turkey? Is this going to be the new Arab Spring? Due to American weakness. This isn't American weakness. We had to withdraw. It's just that the withdrawal sucks. But not because the initial plan was bad. It was great. We finally get out of Afghanistan. Biden screwed this. It is Biden's fault singularly. The U.S. had created an Afghan government that was capable of governing because it had the will of the Taliban to do so. You can't just, if you want to create a stable country, you can't just ignore the power structures that are there unless you intend to completely destroy them. The U.S. clearly wasn't capable of doing that, but we were capable of negotiating. Trump was so great at negotiations, he got to sit down with the Taliban. When's it the last president that could kind of negotiate with them was Reagan. He gets no credit at all, though, because Biden has hoodwinked the public. Fred Friedman Sowell, what are the odds R's win House Senate odds in 2022? 90%. There's a really good chance that the Democrats, because of things like this and inflation, get absolutely ass blasted. Not to say that some of those new Republicans won't be rhinos. There'll still be a bunch of neocon dross, but I think they'll be more populists than ever before, at least for the last 30 or 40 years. It'll be good. Maybe we can have 2024 Trump or DeSantis, and we can have Morning in America again. Casey Dennison, I don't blame the soldiers who fought with honor. Screw the brass and Biden for this crap. Well, even the brass just did what they were told. Just like in Vietnam, they were hamstrung. They weren't allowed to conduct operations the right way. It was very tactical, pick and pack, an airstrike here, a drone strike there. When the drone strikes are killing 75% innocent civilians, it just helps the Taliban recruit more. We could have solved the problem in Afghanistan, but there was no wherewithal to do it because that was never the goal to begin with. The goal was purely economical, is to drain the coffers and get a lot of opium for the Chinese. Vessel of Amala, how do you feel about the Pent forcing vaccines on soldiers? Is it because they are panicking due to midterms? Thanks for your insight. Well, when you join the military, you're government issue. You become a GI. You have to do what you're told. Yeah, that includes experimental vaccines. They signed up for it. Supposedly, they used to put saltpeter in their food to try to keep them from getting erections so that they wouldn't get STDs. Military makes good lab rats. Keep that in mind before you sign up. Once you sign it, you don't have fucking rights. Bagbo Bilbins. I like dildo baggins better. How about that domestic terrorist living from Homeland Security? Love your videos, Styx. Check out Break the Chains media on BitChute too. Oh, listing, not living. Yeah, I saw that. Domestic terrorism is now like if you question only one election out of all of them, you might be a terrorist. If you question, I guess, COVID or something, if you own more than one gun, if you have a MAGA hat, if you drink milk, basically, if you're a regular person, Biden considers you a threat. Taliban, meanwhile, they can have some more Humvees. Roughneck MP 173. Just remember what Uncle Sniffy was in the Senate when Saigon fell. Yeah, Biden's reliving his youth. He sees no problem with it. He was probably cheering that on too. He's like, oh, in 20 years, we can sell the communist Coca-Cola. Claxton Bier, $2.99. No comment. Thank you very much. McNuck69. Cardano is great. Buy the next one is Algorand, and it already has smart contracts, and its governance program is coming in October. It's going to pump. Yeah, Ethereum just got an upgrade too. See, this is what I said would happen like last year. Crypto, initially less efficient, will become more efficient. It'll become more innovative. It'll be used by more corporations. And in my opinion, again, this is an opinion, not financial advice for you. I'm not a financial expert. If crypto is corporatized, which Biden's infrastructure bill plans to do, it'll actually make the value, I think, rise more, because then all the corporations that currently don't even dabble in it and all the banks that won't trade in it, all of a sudden they'll say, oh, well, now the government is regulating it, so it's okay. We'll buy in. All of a sudden you have massively more demand, but you have less supply because all of the personal miners and people that hooked up a computer or two, they're no longer able to mine. So the supply will be throttled. It'll become much more limited. That means the value will tend to rise as long as it has a use at all. Adam M., do you feel vaccines will be mandated on the entire U.S. population? Maybe employers will be the ones leading that agenda. No vaccine, no job. Yeah, I think the latter. And even that eventually will dry up. COVID alarmism is beginning to wane. People are losing interest in it, which is why they've pivoted partially to climate change again, which is like the old Dem Party standard. They've done that because people are no longer as afraid. Here, take this for consideration. I'm in the Netherlands. I'm in Amsterdam. Nobody wears a mask. Nobody cares. And the number of new cases is, the rise is commensurate with what you see in the more mask-positive parts of the United States. People are starting to notice that fact. Goob, Judas Priest or Iron Maiden? Favorite albums of theirs? Black Sabbath. I like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, but I think Sabbath does it best. Ozzy's solo work. Rat's a good band. Drewby, will we ever get past the need for conflict to spur innovation? Nope, because that innovation and invention happen only because of problems. See, an invention is just a way to solve a problem in a novel manner. Well, more conflict, more invention and innovation. People make money off of it. But that part of warmongering is the only positive effect of it. But we don't even do that anymore. We're too busy being woke. The military's only purpose should be to find new ways to kill people and then kill them. Ryan E., do you think the Dems will create a false flag terror attack to further divide the country before the 2022 elections? No, but if any conflict does occur, a riot, terrorist attack, whatever, they will seize upon it, just like they do every time there's a crisis. You think of any school shooting, any insurrection, fiery but mostly peaceful protest, anything. Unless it happens to be leftoids doing the violence, then it's ignored or it's justified and you're supposed to take the knee and be woke. Not another guitar channel. Shouldn't we have just bombed him in 01 and bailed? We shouldn't have bombed Afghanistan to begin with because Osama by then was probably already in Pakistan. We should have attacked the Pakistani government and invaded Saudi Arabia after 9/11. Afghanistan didn't have anything to do with it. And I think not a single one of the hijackers was Afghan. They were Saudis and Jordanians and stuff. And a few from, I think, Lebanon, if I remember correctly. Then we invaded Iraq. Saddam had nothing to do with it. Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi, the two people we were most obsessed with overthrowing, were the ones suppressing the Islamo-fascists. Libya was way better under Gaddafi's fucking jackboots than it ever will be under the slave markets that it has now. Libya's got no development index. If you look, by the way, if you look like 10 years ago, you know, when Gaddafi was in there, and like statistics and charts and stuff, Libya is always listed. Now it's always grayed out. There is no economy. There's no statistics. There's no functional government. It's a bunch of tribal regional bullshit like you have in Afghanistan. We ruined Libya. We destroyed tens of millions of people's lives. That Gaddafi, to his credit, and this is something usually only leftoids will say this, to his credit, he lifted tens of millions of people out of poverty and built an economy that actually worked. That's why they feared him. Same with Saddam. Say what you want. I mean, his son was fucking torturing people to death in his private rape dungeon and shit. Saddam's economy was more functional than what we've got now in Iraq. Look at Baghdad before and after. See, there's a huge difference. Luther Hildebrand, going to work. Send blessing clanks later, my lord. Clank, clank. So many comments. Squid Coyote, can you eat crypto? No, but you can trade it for food. Of course it's technically worthless. It's fucking zeros and ones. How's that any different from a piece of paper with some ink on it? You use the same amount of paper to create a $100 bill and a $1 bill. The only difference is the arrangement of the ink on the piece of paper. You can eat that. High in fiber, probably. The Human Centipede. Hey, Stick, sorry I missed last week. I was knocked out drunk at Obama's birthday party. Sad you weren't there. Did your invite get lost in the mail? I think Chris Chan was there. Lol. Yeah, Biden and Obama and people like that probably get along with Chris Chan. They're into similar things. Look at Macron. Macron's definitely into screwing his mom. He's got one by proxy that he married. Nobody ever wants to bring that up in the French media. B. Newman. Tajikistan has shown that they are ready to protect their borders as the Taliban take over Afghanistan. Do you see them or other neighboring countries going into Afghanistan for control or land as the country destabilizes? No, because the U.S. and China are interested parties. What will probably happen is border sealing. Pakistan also sealing their border, by the way, with Afghanistan. But we saw this with the Syrian civil war, too, at its height. People might go in. The Iranians might get involved or something. But by the way, they might do a better job stabilizing things. Who gives a shit? Trans-conservative waifu. Do you listen to Powerwolf? No, but I've heard of them. Big Boss. Styx. How do vaccines promote virus mutations? Also, 3 favorite history books. Well, anything that limits transmission in any meaningful sense, but doesn't ultimately destroy the virus, will tend to nudge it in the direction of evolution, making it more transmissible and so forth. So far, it hasn't, evolved past vaccines per se, but like you had a report that the Pfizer vaccine's effectiveness against the Delta variant's around 40 now, as opposed to like 90% for the initial strain. Moderna does better. That's about the same for Delta, but then there's this Beta variant, and for that, Moderna is underwhelmed. So basically, I guess you'd have to take 2 different vaccines to have the same effect on these strains, depending on which strain is predominant. Sort of like flu. Flu does the same thing. Craig Simons. What keeps you living in the Netherlands versus coming back to the States to live? Would you recommend expat living? Well, I am where I want to be at any given time. Yeah, expat living's cool. Get bitterballing and shit. Certainly better pickles here, unless you make them at home. Homemade pickles are the best. I have to say there's a Belgian version of pickles here that I've had that is better than even most Dutch pickles, and I mean, that's heresy to say, probably. They didn't even put chocolate in it. I thought the Belgians did that with everything. David G. You were instrumental in my awakening about 6 years ago. Thank you for what you do, sir. Well, you're welcome. Thank you for the comment. The Face When Womp Womp. What's your favorite Eurythmics album? Mine is Savage. I like the 1984 soundtrack. Most people I don't even know that they're the ones that did that. And soundtracks get a little bit sidetracked. I thought that was good. Listen to Double Plus Good. It's for 1984, so it's dystopian. Very much relevant in this era as well. Adam M. Minimize government, eliminate federal income tax, and raise a sin tax. I'm not sure whether that's a play on the word syntax or if you're that's related to religion in some way. Also, eliminate property taxes. Property taxes essentially forces you to never own anything. Holden Girl, I need a stick spoon to go with my mug. Yeah, that's something that's been planned before and fell through initially. Well, I'll have to look into that with the merch people that I'm working with. Ekagrata Occult, appreciate your work. Greetings from Amsterdam. Oh, hello there. We're now near the German border. We're monitoring their transmissions, make sure those fucking Nazis stay where they're put. They can't have the Bitterballen and the Hodding. Byron8899, have you heard from DHS claimed that if you are against COVID measures, mask mandates and vaccines, it is a terrorist threat from NBC News? Yeah, apparently that's now evidence of extremism. But then again, they say that about everything. Milk is white supremacy. The OK sign is white supremacy. When I have my little choir behind me, that's white supremacy. I mean, at some point, it's like, just let it wash off your back like water because it's pointless. Everything is racist. Everything is homophobic and sexist. Who gives a fuck? Who gives a fucking shit? If they're going to claim that about everything, what they've created is a nation that's, I guess, predominantly comprised of Nazis, including most of the minority people. You can be a BIPOC and still be a Nazi. Look at that Ontario dude who was what was it, the Proud Boys or something? He's like, half Cuban, I think. They were saying that he's a white supremacist. Diamond and Silk, they're white supremacists. They're completely black. Everyone's a white supremacist. Even at this point, there are so many white supremacists out there that the leftoids, they'll even say that it's white supremacy if a black person attacks an Asian person for ethnic reasons. That's not even an exaggeration. They don't fucking report on it. William, we have to wear a mask in Oregon again. I was the only one at Costco that wasn't wearing one today. Checkout lady dipped her mask and smiled at me. Yeah, it's a fucking farce. And civil disobedience is a thing, but you didn't hear that from me. We used to fight against injustice by refusing to go along with the injustice. Now a lot of people just nod their heads like bobblehead lemmings. I'm not encouraging that anyone skirt any of these mandates or anything like that. I wouldn't do that. I'm just saying that people in the past, including Martin Luther King, did the same thing. Angie Dickinson, how are black people supposed to get vaccines since they are, I can't read that, I'm sorry. Even I realize that it's meant to be satirical, but I can't even say it out loud. Does that make vaccines racist? Actually, to that point, there are legacy media outlets, including them, CNN, I think, covered it, saying that it fundamentally is bigoted and racist because people, black communities are the least vaccinated. Therefore, if you say no jab, no job, that's a little bit racially tinged. I think that we need more wokeness for those corporations. We need to create more opportunities for people who can't get a vaccine, which some people literally can't. What are they supposed to do? Go on welfare? People, you're too young to get a vaccine. You're immunocompromised. You get some other condition. You can't get a vaccine. You're hemophiliac. They put a needle in you. You probably die. What, are we supposed to discriminate against millions of people? Arnett 23me. Gaddafi may have created a good economy at the time, but I believe it would have eventually collapsed considering he was a socialist. Possibly, but his redistribution model was more effective because there's less bureaucracy under a dictatorship. Only way that socialism ever works is under a dictatorship anyway. And then, true, short term. It's better. I mean, they got socialism now. One person owning another. You can't get more communistic than that. Ryan E. What's your opinion on the Afghanistan interpreter situation? I think the plan is to move them to Qatar, which is perfectly fine. I don't believe they should be admitted to the U.S. as refugees. Not necessary. That was never part of their contractual obligations to begin with. The U.S. never said, hey, if you work as a translator or interpreter or something, we're going to give you citizenship. Put them in Qatar. Put them in a country that's safe and has, we'll pay them or something. Mickelvo, one more for me today. Why don't you like Discord? I know it's part Chinese owned, but what isn't these days? It is good for gamers, etc. Well, because there's all sorts of weird shit on Discord, and because I just don't like it. I don't like socialization anyway, mostly. This is enough socialization for me. Chauncey Stewart, what's your opinion of Trudeau? By the way, there are flies literally everywhere. The people who were here before, I think, might have left some trash around because there are fruit flies too. We've got literal traps out for them. Chauncey Stewart, what's your opinion of Trudeau calling a snap election while preaching that Canada is dealing with the COVID pandemic? Well, I mean, he wants majority rule. People should vote against him and everyone associated with him. That includes vote for socialists before you vote for Trudeau. Everyone should turn their backs on him every time he talks. Chris Primer, I don't always agree, but I like you, Styx. Have some of my alpha assets or beta bucks. Well, thank you for the $5. I will use it on energy drinks. Shifty Russian, of the current world leaders, who would you like to lead America? Donald Trump. If you're only talking about elected officials, I can't think of any. They all fucking suck. Rhapsody Dax, do you think there is a way for Trump or any other Republican to win in 24? I'm worried about them fortifying all the elections. Honk, honk. I've been loving your insight and videos for years. Stay safe and wise. Well, a lot of states are defortifying their elections to make them actually fair. It'll get bogged down a bit in courts, and there are some local injunctions and shit, but by and large, they're passing. Mostly in states that are potentially vulnerable to that, like Florida and Iowa. I think there's hope. They're hoping that you won't even fight. They're hoping to blackpill you into thinking that your vote won't matter, so you won't vote. Easiest way to win. Democrats do it all the time with bots on the internet. That Indian dude, I knew that Afghan National Army would get rolled, but I did not know the capitulation would be this quick. So now I guess the only valid opposition will devolve to ethnic warlords. Yeah, the thing is the ethnic warlords led the Taliban half the manpower that's fighting right now. What happened is that Biden insulted every Afghan by changing the withdrawal date after inking the paper. That's why the fighting is going on. We would have been not culpable at all if we had just stuck to the May 1st withdrawal date. Probably if Afghanistan eventually would have been destabilized anyway, but it wouldn't have been a diplomatic mess for us. It'd be a diplomatic mess for their government, because the government would be in charge. Big Boss, top 3 books, Styx. First, The Elfin Ship by James Blaylock. Secondly, Lake Monster Traditions by Claude Gagnon and Michel Muerger. Number 3, I don't know. I'm partial to Sickness and Hell, but I'm the author, so I don't know. Jeff Tube, big love from Oklahoma. Did you hear about Texas suppressor law? No, I didn't. Are they allowing them or disallowing them now? I can't imagine that Abbott would sign off on a suppressor regulation. By the way, everyone, it's suppressor, not silencer. Get it right. It's not a video game. D-Light, how much worse is New York City going to get? Thanks for all. Well, it's New York City. Nobody cares other than New Yorkers, and they should all move out anyway. What people in New York should be doing is trying to devolve the boroughs into their own government systems. Let Manhattan be Manhattan and Brooklyn be Brooklyn and so forth, and maybe a couple of the boroughs will improve. It's a bad, but the New York City government at large clearly can't govern. Adherent of Lady Columbia. Thoughts on the push for celebrating a more diverse America as they villainize everyone under the banner of whiteness. They're going to have to contend with Hispanic fertility declining fastest. Yeah. Well, also the black population in the United States actually has fallen as a ratio of the population too. The very concept of whiteness is malleable because there are white Hispanics. What about people who are half white, quarter white or something? It becomes, demographics are messy more than anything else. It is funny, Jennifer Rubin was talking about how it's wonderful that the white population declined in the US for the first time since 1790. Oh, she thought that was great. Oh, good, more diverse United States. Accidentally echoing exactly what you'd see on Stormfront with regards to demographics, but she gets a pass. WAPO and MSNBC contributor. Apparently they don't care if they hire a fucking racist. The Human Centipede. What did Biden say almost 2 weeks ago? I heard my butt is white. Yeah, it does. It was impossible to tell what he actually said over the helicopter rotors, but a lot of people heard it that way. It's the sort of thing you can imagine him saying. He obviously has to have his ass wiped by someone else at this point. He'd probably break his arm if he tried to reach back that far. Fucking weirdo. Aaron Bennett. The Afghanistan debacle will impact the midterms significantly. The question, how badly will the current administration lose in the Senate and House? Agreed. I think economics will be more important, specifically the inflation, COVID lockdown-related business closures, stuff like that. But this will be up there. Yeah, the loss of Afghanistan. They're already scrambling preemptively to try to blame Trump for the loss. They're trying to muddy the waters, especially. You can see there are actually a few reports today in the legacy media like, well, the blame game for Afghanistan has begun. Who's to blame for the loss of Kabul? Biden. There is no other person responsible. Nobody else made the decision to ignore unilaterally the withdrawal date. Silaf. Where do you think Australia is going in the near future? I'm interested in the international perspective of it. Hell, probably. The Human Centipede. Did you ever catch any of the California gubernatorial debate almost 2 weeks ago? It was interesting, but most likely I'm going to cast my vote for Larry Elder. Yeah, he seems to be the front runner. Sorry. God, it's so hazy today. Sucking down water and caffeine and everything else. It's a big problem. Justin AZ77. 20 years of war and the country fell in 2 weeks. Unbelievable incompetence from Biden. Yep. Trump would have, by the way, Trump would have done no better, but Trump knew better than to push the withdrawal date. And when Biden did push the withdrawal date, the least he could have done is take all the Humvees and machine guns and shit, move them into Kabul. Now the Taliban's got more weapons than the Afghan government. Meanwhile, again, he wants to disarm you. He thinks that if you have more than 10 bullets in your pistol or rifle, that you're a terrorist. But meanwhile, the Taliban gets MRAPs. Vessel of Amala. Can you list your top 5 horrors of all time, movie and or books, and also advice for aspiring horror, sci-fi, occult writer? Well, I don't really have much advice for aspiring writers because, of course, I just sort of do my own thing. And a lot of my works are edited more than authored. Top 5 horrors. I'll go through movies. Technically, Brotherhood of the Wolf counts as kind of a horror movie, although it's also action and suspense and martial arts and comedy at times and romance. A very, very interesting movie. Definitely, if you haven't seen Brotherhood of the Wolf, you should watch it. Either the English dub or with English subtitles in its initial French. Ninth Gate is my second favorite movie. I like Sleepy Hollow, actually, the Burton version. That got panned. I thought it was great. It's got Johnny Depp, of course, as Ichabod Crane. Blair Witch Project. I know it ages badly once you know that it's not found footage, but I like the atmosphere of it. The Ring comes to mind. Me and Liz have watched that a couple times. I like the part where the horse gets chopped up by the propeller of the ship. That part's great because the horse is like flailing around screaming and blood. Yeah, you know. Stan Littman. The Taliban are Deobandi Indian nationalists. Pakistan will unite with India and the U.S. can split into states. No, I don't think India and Pakistan are going to unite, and there won't be any devolution and balkanization of the U.S. I like how people are trying to say, well, this is evidence that the U.S. empire is over. Look at what happened with the Soviets. That's not going to happen. Scott Steiner, the world's greatest ring announcer. Styx, please refrain from using sleazy too liberally. It's offensive to Sleazy P. Martini. Also, will the feds tax people from not getting the jab? Yeah. No, I don't think that they can do a jab tax. I don't think that hold up at SCOTUS. There is still a functional judiciary sometimes in the U.S., like the eviction moratorium is now in battle at the appeals level. We'll see where that goes fairly quickly. The Prenado, what do you think is the chance that by the time they want to rig in Kamala, Biden is too far gone and refuses to resign, so they have to 25th or impeach him? Or would they just bide their time and hope he croaks eventually? Well, they can force him to resign, even if he's mentally not all there. They'll just have his wife forge the signature, and then they'll have him read from a teleprompted speech and basically say, if you don't do this, you get removed. You won't even get your pension. You'd be an embarrassment. He wouldn't want to embarrass himself on that level. He'll use an excuse. He'll say, well, man, I'm too old for this. Kamala's got on the job training. She'll do fine. Bye. That's probably what'll happen. Either that or he will croak. He's had 2 aneurysms, fallen down 3 times in a year. Squid Coyote. If you can't eat gold and you can't eat crypto, what do you do in a real emergency? You eat tasty animals that you shoot with lead, and then you eat tasty vegetables and fruits that you grew in cow shit. That's what you do. Gabriel McAdams. Hey, Styx, I'm just in my 20s, and I have been set back by all the Biden COVID chaos, and to be frank, the future seems grim. Was hoping for some wisdom to stop me from choking on this black pill being forced down my throat. Learn new skills. Invest all available time in learning skills. People used to do this. Entertainment back in like the 1800s was basically learning things. People used to read little travelers' literature books and stuff, and they'd learn basics of philosophy, maybe try to dabble in a new language, learn geography. There's a million things you can learn. I don't know if you live near a forest. You know, there's a great deal of food that you can harvest out there. Most people don't know about it, so it just sits there and rots. Fiddleheads and mushrooms and shit. Learn things, learn skills, make yourself more marketable. Develop upward mobility through your own efforts. Do you expect, adherent of Lady Columbia, do you expect birth rates to eventually pick up after a prolonged era of population decline and needing rapid automation? Seems to perfectly align. Possibly. I think the population of the West will stabilize. By the way, I don't see a population decline as a bad thing. The world is overpopulated. Now, Jenny M. Made 6 quarts of pickles yesterday. My cucumbers have now fulfilled their destiny. Hashtag pickles in training. Yes, pickles are great. I like pickled beets a lot. Made several quarts of them when I was in Rutland the last time. I mean, before the last time in February. Sickness X9, 100% sure the whole Taliban taking over that fast was scripted. No, it was just a foregone conclusion. The Taliban was ready when the administrations changed from, you know, Trump to the asterisk administration. They knew that they might have a possibility that Biden would screw something up because he's Biden. And so they armed up and prepared. And Biden pushed the date back, and they said, oh, to all the tribal warlords in the areas the Taliban already controlled, they said, hey, you're going to have to donate some sons here for the fight because they're not leaving. Biden has made it clear he's not leaving on the agreed upon date. This is an insult to us, our culture, our religion. This is the way things work in the sub-third world. And Biden should have known better, but he's surrounded himself by empty suit cronies who only understand diplomacy in regards to the Americas and Western Europe. And that's really it. Jacob with the update. When do you expect Biden to pass if he does it all? Plus, love your videos. Maybe they'll put his head on a robot or something. It'll be frozen like Walt Disney. I don't know when, and I'm hoping that he does serve out his term and then just doesn't run again, so that we never have to see President Kamala. That'd be way worse. Michael MJL. Will there ever be a public debate like an upcoming election where Biden admin will ever publicly eat crow? I kind of doubt it. They'll probably try to avoid debating. They avoid the public already. Even in the sweetheart period, in the honeymoon first 100 days, Biden was basically a no-show. He's devolved into an absentee president. He doesn't even want to talk about the fall of Afghanistan. He gives one little, carefully softballed, scripted spiel on CNN yesterday. That'll probably be the last he'll talk about it. He didn't tell anyone. There was no update. Hey, I'm sending 1,000 more troops into Afghanistan to solve the problem that I myself created. Rhapsody Dax. Do you ever stream your gameplay? As a fellow lover of Fallout, it would be fun to watch. I would, except for copyright complaints because of the music in the game. You walk up on the wrong radio, it's playing the wrong song, and YouTube freaks out, and all of a sudden your channel's gone. BBW Slayer 666. Styx, have my babies. Well, how much will they cost? I can pay you in Bitcoin. I figure Biden smiles upon that sort of behavior. Plenty of slavery in countries the Democrats have overthrown. You might as well get some Bitcoin for them. Babies eat. They take money. You buy them for Bitcoin, then I'll have to feed them, and you have the Bitcoin. Put them on display or something. Very democratic behavior. Ryan E. Oh, it's jumping here. It infuriates me that Kamala is being silent this whole time, trying to distance herself from the disaster administration. Yeah, exactly. She won't even go to the border. I loved when she pretended to visit the border the last time, but it was an airfield in El Paso. That was so funny. By the way, El Paso built its own wall years ago, and it dropped the crime rate. It's amazing how that worked. Didn't hear that mentioned. Jeff Tube. Texas passed suppressor law. Big middle finger to the feds. Good. Yeah, suppressors aren't, really a problem. It doesn't make the gun silent. The kind of suppressor you need to make it even really, really quiet is like, the same length as the fucking barrel probably most of the time. Watch Demolition Ranch. You'll see the reality of suppressors. Jacob Hill. Hi, drank too much and spent the whole weekend in bed. Feel pretty dumb. I'm 22, so being dumb is par for the course, I guess. Cheers for your work. Yeah. I remember being 22 all those years ago. Now I'm elderly. I feel like Joe Biden. Gonna trip going upstairs because of a light breeze. Aaron Bennett. Now that people are organizing to take over school boards and other lower branches of state governments, do you think the left resist successfully? Yeah, I think that it's becoming quite successful, which is why the legacy media is flipping out about it, about the school boards especially. But go for the housing authorities and stuff too, and city councils. Those people, anything related to like water, electricity, utilities, roads, all that stuff, most of it's local. And the rest is all state level. The federal government disproportionately sits on its ass and warmongers. And whoremongers, especially if, Cuomo ever got into the office. Greg Marat, is it worth winning back Afghanistan or just leave it as it is? Just leave it alone. It doesn't fucking matter. We've got our own minerals up in Alaska and Canada. Buy them from the North Koreans. Probably be more stable in the future than Afghanistan is. I don't think we should invest another second of time in Afghanistan. Paul Dilly Sandwich. Have you ever seen the No Agenda podcast with Adam Curry and John Vorak? They talk on media deconstruction like you, and I think you would love it. I've heard of Adam Curry. I'm not sure that I've seen the podcast. I'll take a look at it sometime. Renee Miet. 20 years, and all we got was a drooling, demented leader as the generals laugh in retirement. Yeah, the generals are laughing. They got theirs. They got to screw underage prostitutes in Kabul, and they got to embezzle some money, and they got to snort coke and do opium and all the other things that the generals do, which is why the military is a mess. Mr. Wombat had to send a super chat since you referenced Brotherhood of the Wolf. Definitely a great film. Yes, the greatest film. And by the way, please don't send any more super chats. I will be cutting it off a little bit early today. Got to get to other stuff. The store is open in a little bit, so got to get some canned peaches because Liz has become obsessed with them. At least they're healthy. Billsy750. Styx, like Afghanistan, Clankton is under attack in Pixel Planet. Spawn is being turned blue. Send reinforcements. All right, everyone go to Pixel Planet. Prepare to fix Styxhexenhammer. JD Spare. Hello. What criteria would a state have to meet for you to move there? Any tier list of states? Well, I mean, I'm a Vermonter, raised, but technically born in New Hampshire. And New Hampshire, of course, is lower tax and more pro-gun. And there's the free state movement there. Dan Kaufman is there. That's basically where Odyssey is based. I've thought of New Hampshire. I like Texas. There are good and bad things about every state, except California and New York. That's just bad. I don't know. I like moving around a little bit. Being here in the Netherlands is cool. Frank Spisano, do you still feel like a wizard shouting at trees? Yes, of course. Always be a spoon wizard. Sadakar, 7th Legion. Why am I being censored saying do games on Twitch? I have no clue. So yeah, we've worked through the super chats. Long story short, Afghanistan is falling or has basically fallen. The U.S. is trying to bribe the Taliban at this point. The Afghan government's no longer functioning. Thanks, Biden. Everyone make sure to leave him some love on Twitter and elsewhere. Keep in mind, we're at 4 Biden loser units right now. For every 300 people watching a stream, it's a BLU, because that's usually how many people watch his official White House stream, is about 300. So we're at 4 right now. We're 4 times more popular than the so-called president of the United States. So yeah, I'm going to go off here, get ready for shopping, do my hair a little bit more. I showered right before the stream. I looked piratical and crazy because I went a couple days without a shower. And at some point, it becomes a problem. People start complaining about the smell. When the neighbors start calling the hazmat team, you know that it's become a problem. That's about all. Peace out.